Hi everyone, it's Wendy. I hope you've all had a good festive season. I'm just quickly popping here today to show you these things I've been doing on my lap tray over Christmas, and it's tags and pockets and just bits really to fill up my shoe boxes ready to pop into a journal. I've done some decorated, but I'm getting some pockets ready that are waiting to be decorated, and then when I'm making a journal of a particular theme, I can just put an image on and some words, etc. So I'm just going to show you what I do to make these. I'm using a book, or two books rather, from that I buy in a charity shop, usually in the UK because we don't get such good ones here in Spain. But I'll just quickly flip through these. These are large tags, they're about 8 inches high. So I'm going to put a dangle on the eyelet here so they can dangle off the top of the page. So I've done 2 with these flowers. Now these are from a gardening book, or rather the images are from the wildflower book. Let me just find the cover for you. This one, and they've got some beautiful images, and it's nice thick paper as well, so I've ripped round some of the flowers to give that sort of image, and just quickly inked around the side. And then this backing paper is from another gardening book. I couldn't even tell you which one it is, but these are some pages that I've got left from it. Illustrated Plant Encyclopedia. So you can even make nice little ephemera from these little images as well. We've got some nice little pictures in, but I've used mostly the writing just to give me a backing for the tags, and these are some bits I've got left. I've cut some of the images out to put on the pockets that I made. Some I have torn round, that would look quite nice. Words I've cut out as well, or I'll tear around that one. A bowl of crocus, and so that is that one. So, and this book, the writing pages, which there was some, see I've got a load torn out ready to ink up and use there. It's a lovely book, but obviously I won't use it for reading because I don't do planting. Since I've moved to Spain, I used to have a lovely garden in the UK, but since moving to Spain I have lost my green fingers. I can't even really keep house plants anymore. They just don't want to live with me. See, lovely images. I think I've used most of the writing only pages. I think these are all images I've got left here. So let's just wrap them up in the cover, then I know that they're images to be used. So that's wildflowers, ferns and grasses. And I'm sure I've got some at the side of me here to make pockets. Let me just have a look. Actually, it looks like I may, oh here we are, this is what I'm looking for. This was just the, see that's where I've torn all the pages out. So these pages that are left, I'm just going to make these little pockets with, and dead easy, like a coin envelope shape, which I'm sure you've done. So I like the torn edges as well, and I just fold it over, get the bottom even, just overlap it a little bit, about 1 centimetre, like so. And then I just fold the bottom up, and then I'm just going to cut these 2 flaps. There's my scissors. Cut those and just wedge that a little bit, and wedge that side and cut that then that just folds up like that, and you've got a nice neat edge. Let me just get some glue out. So a bead of glue down there, glue that together, and then glue the bottom up like so. Then you can punch a little thumb hole in there and then ink round if you want to. I personally like inked edges, some don't, entirely your choice. And then that is ready just to be glued into a journal, either way, straight up, or you could put two on the side. And then I've got some tags. I used Kraft Card to make my tags, different sizes. Let's just show you these. Piece of Kraft Card, and I cut one tag about 4 inches wide, full length of the card, and then I cut this piece that was left in two. So I got 3 large tags out of that. I think I've used the big one. Let me just find my tags again. So that was the big piece, like so, and then these were 2 cut from the side. So you get 3 large tags out of one piece of card, and then another piece I just made some smaller tags, just fit as many as I could out of one piece of card. So these are the size that's going to go in the pocket. So let's just get that out of the way. So that size just fits nicely, it's plenty of room. And then, so I'm cutting a load of these, I'm making a load of pockets like this, and some of those are just going to go in my shoe boxes as they are, and some I'm going to decorate ready to be used, probably because it's a plant book in a botanical journal. This is one I've made with an image ripped out of the book, bit of cheesecloth, little bits of ephemera, and that's ready to go. And another one. I've got loads of ephemera all cut out ready, so I'm trying to get some of it used up. So that's quite a few pockets there, and I've got some tags here that will all fit in. These are a bit taller, like so, she says. These just need, that's a bit more of a snug fit, but it still goes, and I need to get tabs or something on the top. So let's see what we've got here. I want to do this tag. I have just finished off, and all I did was put an eyelet in and just tied a piece of coloured knitting yarn through. Some of the larger tags I have stitched around, these 3. Now these I didn't put any backing paper on, I just used a full page from the book and just made it into a shape tag, inked around it, and then stitched and put some material. This is an old quilt cover I've just torn up and stitched on. So that's 3 tags, giant tags, ready to go into a journal. These 2, sorry, this one I didn't stitch round. I personally think they look nicer stitched, but if you haven't got a sewing machine, you could just go around with a felt tip pen and put faux stitching on. So that's those. Now I've got 2 dangles ready to put on the larger tags that I've put eyelets in. Let me just find my other one that's disappeared in my pile at the side of me. Where the heck's it gone? It's not in that lot. I had 2 ready with eyelets. Here we go. So that's the 2 I've got ready. I've just put a brown eyelet in. Do you find that some eyelets go in a lot better than others? These seem to curl round. Don't know if you can see that. Anyway, So these are just from my box of ready prepared. I have loads of these. Again, it's something I do just sat watching telly. That's a paper clip just with some eyelash trim tied around the end, an eyelet in, put a bulb pin and a little pearl dangle, and that can just dangle off the side of a page. All sorts of different designs here. This is only one of about 7 or 8 boxes I've got of ready prepared dangles and bulb pins, paper clips, ready to go into a journal. And that's one with some laminated. These are from Tracy Fox with a dangle on and a bulb pin on a chain, so that'll dangle off the top. So that's the 2 I've just pulled out ready to go into these tags, which we shall now just attach just with the bulb pin. Easy. If you have them all ready, and that just dangles off the top of the page, and the same with this one. I will link below the videos I've got making dangles and things like this. I just love making them. So, and that could just go in a pocket on a page and just dangle off the top. So that's ready to go into my shoe boxes of ready prepared. So let's just decorate a couple of these up. These are just 2 of the smaller size tags that I've made, and just use some of the book page, just the writing, and I've got some images ready to play with. Let's just pull a couple of pieces. That's a bit too big, so in fact we could actually cut that in half. In fact, let's just do that, because that would just make a nice pair of tags, wouldn't it? In fact, I'll tear it, to be fair. I quite like torn edges. So that could go on one, and that could go on one. In fact, I'll put the darker one on the larger tag. I'm just going to ink round these edges. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos over the festive period. Gives you lots of ideas of stuff you want to make. Trouble is, it gets your head full of ideas, and then you end up with your head too busy, and I get overwhelmed with all the ideas sometimes. But I have got another idea for my next video, I must admit. So I've got 2 pieces of very open weave cheesecloth, which I'm going to put down first. Just put a bit of glue stick first, like so. Stick that down, and this one. Then I'm going to use my fabric glue while I'm just giving this a shake, because it's 3 in 1, but I did let it down with nail polish remover, because it went very, very thick. It was a hard job to get it out of the bottle. So I'm just going to stick that on the top. Just turn that upside down, let it stick. What's your favourite way to put a tab on the top of your tags? Everyone has their own ways. Sometimes I use paper. Sometimes I use quilt cover or material. Sometimes I use my tab punch, which is this one. For bigger tags, like I did on this one, that's the punch I used, one of those, which I like as well. But on the one sample I showed you, I did just actually punch and put a little eyelet in. Because sometimes you don't want too much thickness inside your journal, do you? Filling your pages with, you know, bulky things. Right, let's just get a few bits of ephemera. This is my odds pouch. All bits and bobs from different designers, different digital kits. Just trying to find a few words or butterflies or something. Let's see what's in this pouch here. A few butterflies probably. Let's just tip a few out. They're too big. Right, let's have a look what we've got. Don't really want red on yellow. That's a nice butterfly, would go on the bottom. That, another one there, would go again on the bottom, I think. So I'm just quickly going to ink the edges. This is the sort of crafting I like to do. I just get a tray and then I'll just pull out some bits, like say a file with bits of ephemera like this, an odds box with all sorts in. Cut my cardboard out ready for tags, get a couple of books that I can tear up and then see where I go from there. And that is my sort of favourite type of crafting. I'd love to know, do you sit with a lap tray or do you always craft in your craft room? I sometimes wish I had a bigger craft room, and I could move upstairs to one of the bedrooms or the spare bedroom, but then that would mean when we had visitors I would have to move everything out of the way, which is a bit of a pain, and there still wouldn't be a great deal more room up there, because obviously I've got to keep the single bed up there and it sort of defeats the object. And also I like this one because it is downstairs, so with my creaky knees I don't have to keep running up and down stairs, which is another bonus. Just trying to see which way that is. Let's just put that part way down there. I've got some glue on my finger here. Let's just get rid of that. So this has its bonuses with being downstairs. I'm just going to put that under the cheesecloth, and then I'm going to glue that cheesecloth down a little bit more, and I'm going to put little eyelets in here as well. I don't think I really need anything else on that one. You can overdo it sometimes, I think. So let's just get the crocodile and some eyelets and put that away. Put the ephemera away. I'm trying to be neat as I'm working, putting things away instead of just putting them on the side of the desk. I'm sure you're all the same. You start off with a craft space and then you end up smaller and smaller and smaller, like that. I'm just going to put that at the side, which I've just said about putting it all away. Anyway, let's get a couple of eyelets out. I think these are from a company called Artemis, and I get them from the local craft shop, and these do attach nicely. You get a nice neat back, nothing a bit jagged. See, like that one's just spread out nicely and it's set into the card. So I'm going to get my crocodile. It's already set on the smallest setting for these brads, so try and get it in the middle. The same with this one, as near as my eyes allow. Put the brad in. Excuse my squeaky chair. Put that one in. I'm just trying to tuck the cheesecloth under it a little bit just to secure it a bit more. And set that one. See, that's set quite nicely there. Now I'm going to use the same twine that I used in this one. Then I've got a set of 3 that match, and they'll all be ready to put into a journal. Let's just get the same twine out. So I need 2 lengths. That away in my bag. I was watching a couple of videos this morning on organising drawers in your craft room, and I do like organising. I find it very therapeutic. Right, the reason I'm tying this in a knot is because this twine is quite slippery, and if I just put it through, if you know, like that, putting it through and then putting the end through, it would probably work its way undone. So I'm tying this in a reef knot, and hopefully it will stay secured. That's unraveling. So a reef knot is right over left and under, and left over right and under. And that I remember from 60 odd years ago when I was at Brownies or Girl Guides. So that's 3 tags ready to go in a journal of a botanical theme. And that is me done for today. And thanks for joining me. I hope you've all had a wonderful festive season, and I shall see you next week. Bye.